Hello and welcome. In this video, I'm going to talk about exchanges, portfolio management, and this is an interesting time for me now as I don't have much fiat dollar value in my exchanges. And I've been thinking, when's the last time I've had under $1,000 worth of cryptos on exchanges? And well, I do now. And I've been, especially after the Cryptopia, I've been doing everything that I can to ensure that I can trade as aggressively as possible while having the most control of my cryptocurrencies that I possibly can. And life is a learning experience. You go through experiences, you learn from them. And even when you know from before, because before Cryptopia had its mess problem, where they got hacked and well people's funds all to a lot of them were taken away. I lost a very good portion of the funds and I had a decent amount in there overall, which kind of sucked. But why did I do it? Well, I had buy orders for Litecoin and for like 20 or 25 different pairings. Okay, then I mean, it works out long term, and it definitely has worked out long term for me to do it as far as where my net gain is right now. But I don't need to have buy orders and sell orders ready to go. I can wait for the conditions of the markets to tell me when to trade and control all of my private keys, or at least a good percentage of them. And before when I started, all of my coins were on exchanges, and I'm going to get to that in a little bit. But when you control those keys, they're yours. Something, whatever, it doesn't matter what the news event that happens to exchanges, but if they go down, and you don't have any or very little in there, then it's no big deal, whatever. Especially if it's none, and even if it's just little, whatever. So you maybe have 1% or 4% or a small amount that you lose that on market conditions anyway. So that's not as much of a hit, and that is why I think it's very important in like within private keys to have them. Now, when I started trading, let's go back to 2017. Because back in here, I was very curious at the end of 2016 into 2017 about this Bitcoin, and thanks to a couple donations that I got early on, one in particular really nice, but even another one that was nice as well. Been a few other small ones. So thanks for everybody who's donated and given me gifts over the last couple plus years. Very much appreciated. But at that time, it was probably around, I don't know, February 12th, February 13th area. We got some nice ones back when Bitcoin was around this $1,000 handle. And I started trading on the markets at around early February, February 21, February 22nd. I put funds into Poloniex. Market went down. During this down spot, I was buying a little bit, like $50 here, $40 here, $80 here. Nothing too spectacular though. And as far as the levels were concerned, we can see how this just ran up high all the way until June. And then, of course, it ran up well again. Altcoins ran up well from about right around here in April all the way up. And what I'm showing here is what some data looked like way back when in 2017. I didn't gain too much in the month of March. I gained a little bit. I still didn't even own a Bitcoin at that point, net total. But 100% of these funds, well, March 31st, I had a third of a Bitcoin on Coinbase, but I didn't control that private key. Poloniex had about a quarter of a Bitcoin. I was in the Bella trade at that point with a few others. Bittrex zero point 0.2, hit BTC 0.085. And in that month of March, or April rather, I was thinking, why do I need to even have these funds on Coinbase? It's not like they're buying and selling anything. So that's why on April 30th, I didn't have hardly anywhere near as much. I had 0.06 Bitcoin. Poloniex, I mean, I and Bittrex, you can see those numbers much, much higher. Just crushing the trading game. Got some funds on C forward slash, I call it CSEX, which is a cryptocurrency exchange, very much a scam site. But that was for getting XBY at the time. You could say that looks like a scam coin itself, unfortunately. But risk reward management, buy low, sell high. And I've said so many times that if you get opportunities with coins, make sure you take your profits. So in situations, if you do get involved in a coin that gets its ass kicked, if you're fortunate enough to have good trades or gains beforehand, then it's just what you lose at the very end, which is basically part of the Cryptopia fiasco. I got out of Hit BTC in April. I went to the exchange of the LITECOIN. That was just another one. SWC was a poker site. I'm going to talk about poker in this video at the end too, as well, and Doyle Brunson. And I got my balance up to 1.66 Bitcoin, 1 2/3. So I doubled up, and that's what the whole point of this game is, of trading, is to increase your base currencies. Go increase your Bitcoin numbers, how many Bitcoin you own. If you're trading Litecoin, increase your Litecoin total, increase your total against the dollar, and all that type of fun stuff. On the date of April the 7th, I managed to get over 1 Bitcoin, and I have never ever been below that ever since. And the month of so April was a good month for me. So was May. May was probably even just as good, if not, it was. We'll say it's just about as good. June pretty good, and then obviously time moves on. There's been these were amazing runs. So when you get amazing runs, there's opportunities to really do amazing. You could double, triple, quad 5 times, and if I was trading then like I am now, I would have even crushed that market even more. But that's the whole point of learning. And as the time went on, markets were going higher. Value of Bitcoin was worth more. Furthermore, I was making more. It's really important to hold within your private keys what you own. And make sure you own it, hold it, and all that type of great stuff. So I was thinking to myself, it's about time I got myself a Trezor wallet. And all the Coinbase funds, they went right there to the Trezor. But buy and sell orders, they can work. But you're trusting with your funds on the exchange really at all times. And everything can be fine until it's not. And everything on Cryptopia was fine until it wasn't. And that's always the way it's going to be. But I want to talk about an aspect of buy orders or sell or orders period versus not having orders. Sometimes they work and sometimes the other works. And here's an example of how. 1 minute time frame for this coin. This is what it did. It was in its downtrend, and right now Binance is going through a spot in 90 days. They're not even allowing U.S. customers to trade on that site. So I end up selling most of my BNB for Bitcoin. Whatever. And that Bitcoin, I had 3 BNB. So now I got, what, $90 worth of Bitcoin on exchanges and a lot more within my private key. With that being said, you have orders in to sell. And I talk about maybe you have an order at 718, maybe you have an order at 833, it works, and you got your buyback already. Today, I would have fallen asleep sometime around here. In the 1600 hours or so, I would have fallen asleep. I had a very good nap. One of my best, top 50 nap of all time. Whatever. But I didn't get up until like 8:30 p.m. right here. So I missed all of that. Then when I woke up, I seen it was 700. Okay, so I deposited some funds in there, and it's still in there. I mean, I got sell order because it went down. So this is a losing spot, but sometimes it wins, sometimes it loses. As let's explain to you a situation where it would be a big winner by not having orders in, waiting for the action to come to you. So here we have it in here. Again, you have your sell orders in it, maybe up here. And even like 762 is pretty high. So if you're in the time frame of 1836 to, well, you mean definitely all of this time in here, you're saying, oh my goodness, the market's going higher. And let's just assume you were happy to sell at 713. And let's assume you normally would have an order in for 700. So you're noticing down in here, okay, you see at this time, okay, time to sell. Let's move funds into the market. So you take funds from your wallet. It doesn't take long to get there. And then maybe you're lucky enough you can see it gets there. It's at 865 and you sell. That's just fluke luck because that there's only seconds it was available for that price, and I don't even know. That might have just been one buy for all I know. I don't know what was available to easily buy, but it was most certainly available to sell between 7:30 to 7:90 for about 7-8 minutes, and then even 7:30 to here for even more minutes. So if you were happy to sell for 7, you got yourself a better trade. But it could even work out even more glorious than that. Because you could be like, yeah, I want to sell some at 7, maybe sell a bit at 770. This thing could be at like 900 or 1,000 by the time you got your funds ready to send and to trade. And now you're getting just a more dynamic deal. Because one of the things I hope to get is I spend a lot of time, and unfortunately, 8 hours seems to be a lot of time, but I spend a lot of time away from the markets. So I'm hoping within that 8 hours, some market is just pumped up like 80% or some sort of sick amount, and I can just make some killer ratio trades. But by having funds in your hardware wallet, well, that can do it. So as far as where you store your private keys, obvious one of the places is in a writing it down. Remember to protect it from fire. Obviously, where are you going to put it that is 100.0000000% safe to have your keys? Is there special spots? Couple places here and there. Protect it from fire, protect it from flood and water. Do not get it laminated at a machine place because there could be smart folks who can memorize those private keywords. They can memorize 20 words in their head. Not many people can, but maybe you get unlucky. You meet to somebody who does. And they happen to also know what that is a private key. So they memorize those 20 words. You leave the store, they write them down so that they can, because they can only remember them for maybe a few minutes. And then they go on the computer and they take your funds. So you have to think of all these different aspects. But what's interesting is just think of the idea of burying gold and silver versus burying cryptocurrency keys. The whole point of either one is to bury it with, again, there's a 100.0000000% chance anyone's going to find it. But with a metal detector, they can find your gold and silver. And there is no cryptocurrency private key detectors they can find on the ground to figure that out. Again, and this is to protect it from different areas of like in your house area where something happens like fires and stuff like that. And you have a different spot to do it. But what's interesting is if you bury your gold and silver, what happens if you're not in that area of your gold and silver and you want to get it somewhere else? Meaning your gold and silver is 450 yards away, or even obviously further. But you don't want to go there to get it. Well, you have no choice but to get it if you want it. But within those private keys, obviously, if you want to remove it, you have to remove it. But if I need access to it, I can have spots, different spots, in which I can put it. So I can have my private keys in pieces of paper on storage devices like USB flash drives. You can put them on, well, those are the main ones right there, and store them in different box, different little areas, but uh, just different things. Also, when you think about for protecting and just like wills and stuff like that, that really is part of it. There, who do you trust for? And, like if you're the type of person like most people, especially adults my age and any adult, even if you're 20, you should seriously consider what they would call the will stays. We're in a day and age where things are changing. Nothing against the traditional wills, but who would be your beneficiary? Is there anybody in the world you trust? So if something happens to you, where do your cryptos go? And that I think is very important as well. If you're not in that situation, I don't know what else to say. I fortunately am in that situation where my beneficiary uh, is somebody I can 100.00000% trust. and information for how they can access my private keys if something happens. Things like that. And that's just mainly more of a rant, more than anything. But let's now talk about like Cryptopia because I got hit pretty hard there. I had oh crap 30 plus Litecoin and I lost 40% of them right off the bat. Then I had the XBY fundamental problem there that got hit pretty hard. Had a decent size holding there, but it's scam in itself. I'm gonna throw that part in a little way because of that coin doesn't look too good in itself. But I have some Ethereum Classic still on there. I have about four or five, whatever, different six other coins. And then I lost. I didn't really. I didn't. I was gonna say I lost like 9% or 11% of my Bitcoin on the haircut, but I didn't really have any Bitcoin on there. I had maybe like 0.01 or something, if even that, just round that. So I really didn't have any Bitcoin. It was all alts. But a lot of the alts that I had, I got everything that I could off because what happened is they allowed you to withdraw Bitcoin, Doji, and Litecoin. And some markets were available for trade, so you could sell it for Bitcoin. And what happened was those coins were like 20, 30% cheaper than the fair market price. So I had to sell Dash at like 20% lower than what it was, and so on and so forth. But I was able to do that and literally get my last little bit out, like little over 24 hours before the hack. Or they sent it to my wallet, but 14, 15 hours before the event happened. So I was grateful that that took place. But uh, that that to me was a big loss. And now I want to talk about Doyle Brunson and the year 2005. And Doyle Brunson is a legendary poker player of the day. A retired American poker player who played professional for over 50 years. He is a two-time WSOP World Series of Poker main event champion, and his accolades just go on and on and on. Born August the 10th, 1933, 85 years old. That is magnificent that he's been able to live such a very good life. And to say that his book changed my life would be an understatement. For he wrote a book called The Super System, and really The Super System 2 I bought in 2005 for like 40 or 50 bucks. I would definitely rank it, no questions asked, top three book of all time. Probably top one. That's how much I loved that book. And I read that book where I worked at my job as a security guard. It was a security position where I didn't need to do too much at the desk because I mean, everyone at the factory that worked there did their thing. They had their own keys. I just said hi to people. No one really needed to get a hold of me too often. Even when transports and trucks came in, half the time they didn't really need much out of me. And if they did, it was not much more than a signature or access or a notification for people that somebody was there. And again, they would usually could notify somebody else. I didn't do much of that job. But every hour I had to walk around the whole factory, about a 15-minute walk. So you do a 15-minute run, and then you just hang around there for 45 minutes. So during those 45 minutes, I was reading his book, Super System 2. I loved it, learned a lot. But in that book, he talked about being robbed back in the heydays at the old casinos back then, where he would lose a good amount of his bankroll, but it was enough where it was noticeable, but he's fine. And he's not only fine to the point where, hey, I can go out and have a nice steak, whatever meal I can do. I mean, I'm fine. I mean, but it wasn't. It's a significant loss, so it's going to take some time to get it back, but it's going to come back. It's not that I'm going to get back in one session or two sessions. It's going to take probably a few months, maybe, for him to get back in that spot, maybe or whatever. It was a decent sized loss, and he talked about in that book, and I remember reading that, and I was inspired by that point just reading it then. But then during what happened, I feel very similar to that spot. for what was taken from me on the Cryptopia. I'm still hopeful, but pessimistic that I'll be able to get what's available in their back within the whole liquidation process that is going on. Now, what what's interesting about this position that I had was it was September of October. It was Hurricane Katrina time frame, and this is how the job site worked for me because I can remember that I was done reading this book at this time when Hurricane Katrina happened, and it was a deadly storm so bad that by the time it came to my neck of the woods at Lake Ontario, it was pretty bad. It was the winds were were bad. And where I worked, I was 75 yards away from Lake Ontario itself. And during my 15-minute walk, doing a whole like a square box walk around the whole factory, I go in and outside probably 8 or 9 times. And the night which Hurricane Katrina came to my area, that was one hell of a shift that I hated. Like I'm still dreading that night. And that's how bad it was when we're talking how many miles away it was still that bad. And I quit very very shortly after it. But the stuff that I was doing during that time frame, I remember, was putting on hockey games on the radio, betting on Ontario Hockey League games, researching, doing all my handicapping on sports. I was also doing a lot of poker research. I brought poker magazines with me. Probably on that day of Hurricane Katrina, I probably had about 85 to 100 poker magazines. No, no kidding, no lie, and a lot of them were free. I mean, the comp business that I figured out how to work with, sort of like if you've heard about in Vegas, and I've never ever been to Vegas in my life, but there's just so many comps available for big game players. Well, there was a lot of comps that I found in the well, even the smaller casinos, and I wasn't even that big of a player either, and I didn't get the greatest of comps at casinos in Ontario, Canada. But comps on online poker sites. I was getting free magazines, I was getting free books, I was getting a lot of free stuff. So that was one of the reasons. But then I bought them. I mean, I would go to bookstores and whatever I find I bought. That's just the way it was. I miss the day and ages of going to bookstores 5, 6 times a year, 7 times a year. I really do. But I probably should go back more. However, I went to the eye doctor today. I got reading glasses, so I won't be able to read for a week and a half before my prescription comes in. Anyway, uh, I decided like shortly after that time frame, probably October, November of that year. I think it would have been October, November, I'm guessing, to quit the job because poker was doing very, very well. It's funny. You go to a job, you use their free time to learn how to play better, to get pieces of paper, pens, just do formulas, do flowcharts, do different strategies and different things, figuring out probability odds, doing mathematics, oh, the stuff that I was doing. Now, granted, when I talk about all that stuff, that would have been like June, July, August kind of deal. I would have been doing that probably. I can't remember when I bought the book. I started playing poker for cash in 2005, probably spring, summer. I started playing. And just like cryptocurrencies, when I started, it didn't take long before I started to really rise my bankroll really nicely. Again, it was enough for me to be able to quit that job. In which, again, that hurricane, like, I mean, I know, I feel so bad for everyone who goes through those majorly difficult times because literally on shores of New Orleans, Louisiana, it was life threatening there. I mean, it wasn't life threatening on the shores of Lake Ontario, but I find the winds were they were high, and I could be, it was high. Nothing's really going on here, I'm thinking. Yeah. So anyway, thank you for tuning into this video. All about portfolio management, holding your private keys. I mean, so important. And because you can literally Like if you think of an exchange, you have nothing, 0 units on the exchange. Oh, I need to sell this for this, even if it's $50 or $1,000 or 6,000. You send those coins to the exchange, you sell them, you buy the other one, you take them off, you move them, and you have zero funds again on that exchange until it's time again to trade. Thank you for tuning in. Have yourself a great day. Bye bye.